Hello and welcome once again to What Culture MMA. I am Joe Hendry and right here is Tom Ransom, and we are two very tired individuals because we have just been working at the WCPW tapings, but no rest for the wicked. We have retired back to the hotel to discuss UFC 202 and do a quick recap. Now, as you know, I do my little song and dance, but Tom really is the brains of the operation. I'll give him that. That's, I can admit that. Now, Tom, he's going to take you through his highlights from the preliminary card. So, Tom, what stood out to you the most?
Cool. That's the thing is, it was a huge card. It's one of those things this is what we thought that UFC 200 was gonna be. This whole thing focused around McGregor versus Diaz, but it really pushed past just that fight, and every single fight delivered. I don't think there was a fight that didn't deliver. I think if there was a fight that didn't deliver, it was probably Lobov versus Avila, which was McGregor versus Diaz. That's how they built that fight. It was the two camps, who I guess they're the training partner of McGregor, Lobov, against the protege of Nate Diaz, which was Chris Avila. So that was one of the fights that maybe didn't deliver. Lobov was coming in with so much experience. I think he knew that this was something that he had to win. He'd lost a couple of fights previous to this, but he knew that he had to win this fight, and it just seemed quite a landslide. But if we're talking about which fights delivered, I was sat there and each and every one was brilliant. To kick off the show, we had Marvin Vettori against Alberto Uda, and that fight was a really wonderful debut for Martin Vettori. You could see that he was a little bit nervous, as it was his debut. So he maybe rushed in, tried to use his striking, and it didn't really work out for him too well, and he ended up getting taken down by Uda. He was able to reverse that, and he was able to just apply some brutal ground pound till ultimately submitting Uda, which was nuts, purely because Uda is this Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, and of such experience as well. So that was fantastic. Moving up the card, we had Colby Covington versus Max Griffin. Colby Covington looked spectacular, absolutely spectacular. This was a classic grappler versus striker, and it was just reinforced that if you're not coming into the UFC with a completely well-rounded game, you're gonna get stopped, and that's what Covington did. He charged down Max Griffin, took him to the ground, beat him up, and ultimately beat him by TKO. That was a really brilliant fight for Covington. So I'm looking forward to seeing, what else he has. He said that only loss in the octagon was a fluke.
Again, it's interesting when you mention how stacked the card was. It's you're seeing names here who have got, obviously, Covington's got an amazing record apart from that one loss, and I'm kind of sitting here wondering, why is this guy on the preliminary fight pass card? But then again, it's not that's kind of demotion. It's just that the standard of this particular card was so high. It was almost like it was what 200 was to be.
It was totally. I think it was totally overlooked. I think people were so focused on that rematch, that McGregor Diaz that they forgot about the quality of what was really going on in the undercard, and that is.
And to be fair, we did as well. Myself and James Dixon did get slaughtered in the comments for that. So, fair enough.
But it's something that needed to be talked about at length.
Yeah.
McGregor, it needed its own round.
Thanks for making me feel better, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
But I was going to say that is totally high. The whole prelim, the whole fight pass prelims was really highlighted by the main event, and that was Neil Magny against Lorenz Larkin, and that fight was really the fight that defined who and what Lorenz Larkin could be in the UFC. To go and beat a guy like Neil Magny in the way that he did was it was fantastic. I mean, I said it in the preview, my UFC 202 preview, that the one thing that Lorenz Larkin had in this was that he had this unpredictability. He had this. He dropped down weight. He picked up 2 big wins, and this was a real test for him. And like I said in the preview again, he really embodies his nickname, which is the Monsoon. He came in. He just surprised. I think he surprised Neil Magny. I think I think Neil Magny, he knew what he was up against, but I don't think that he realised that it was going to go the way it did in the end. And Lorenz Larkin just really put the pressure on, really went for it. It's something we'll talk about in a bit, but this is what I thought Rick Story would do. This is what I thought Rick Story.
I was surprised by that pick, though. I was surprised by your pick of Rick Story. Like when you kind of explain it to me, which I'm sure you'll explain now. I mean, to me, like Donald. I mean, we'll get to the Donald Story thing, but sorry, carry on, continue.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically what I was going to say was that this is what I thought Rick Story would do. He would come and he'd realise, right, this is my opportunity. This is my opportunity after this my whole fight career. I mean, Lorenz Larkin is a Strikeforce veteran. He's had fight after fight after fight. He's never quite made the statement in the UFC that maybe he wanted to. But man, did he make it against a guy like Neil Magny. Neil Magny beat the crap.
I'm glad you toned that down. I didn't know which word you were going to use there.
He beat the crap out of Hector Lombard. There's a few people in the comments saying like, I said, who does that to Hector Lombard? Nobody does. I mean, yeah, he got KO'd by Henderson, but he got KO'd by Henderson. What Neil Magny did was he beat him up. He dragged him into that deep water, and he beat him up. Yeah. So that was just a really impressive performance by Lorenz Larkin.
I mean, it's probably worth noting on the fact that it's somewhat of a career resurgence. Like this, it's really weird that this is happening all over the UFC, where you see like it's career resurgence after career resurgence. It's like, I don't know, is that a new thing? Is this a new trend? Is it just is it the law of improbable odds? It just seems there's so many people who are going through troubles and having loss after loss after loss with the occasional win, and then just coming back and absolutely storming it.
Yeah, I think honestly,
which is weird at that highest peak level where it's like margins are the only difference. What changes with these people?
I mean, here's the thing about martial arts. I think as opposed to something like, football. I'm talking about like NFL. I'm talking about. Any sport that you can apply to, you always look at these new guys and go, okay, that's the next generation. But with martial arts, it just seems that if you've got that experience, if you've been around the game for as long as some of these guys have, maybe they want it more. Maybe the experience in martial arts is the thing that is winning these fights and getting this resurgence for them. It's that they've experienced the ups, they've also experienced like some nasty lows.
This is a controversial topic, but it's one that's discussed all throughout MMA, and I think we'd be doing a disservice to our viewers if we didn't at least kind of address it. And that's, I often wonder, not in this fight specifically, but broadly, is USADA having an effect on some career paths right now?
I mean, it must be.
Part of me has to think that's a factor. Not, again, I'm not talking specifically about this fight. I just mean in the general trends that we're seeing.
Yeah, I think so. It's just, it comes down to some of the unlikely guys that have been caught in that situation as well. It's one of those things. I mean, we talked about Hector Lombard getting beaten up by Neil Magny. I mean, Hector Lombard used to be a beast. He used to be such a beast. He went through what he went through in terms of his suspension, and he's come back, but he hasn't come back the same. Alistair Overeem, for instance, boy, was that guy an absolute beast. He was absolute nutcase. He was taking guys out, making them look. I mean, he beat up Brock Lesnar. I mean, I know he was going through diverticulitis. Yeah. But he beat Brock Lesnar up.
Yeah, not many people can claim that.
No, exactly. He made it look easy. And then, he got knocked out by Bigfoot, and then he got knocked out by Travis Brown, and so he came off of TRT,
mm-hmm.
and which got banned, and he just wasn't the same. I mean, but we can apply the resurgence to Alistair Overeem because he's going to be fighting for a title.
Yeah, exactly. So he's kind of gone the opposite way now. But again, like part of me has to think, like, when I was kind of first following MMA, which was sort of back, I probably got into it probably about 2008, 2009, and around that time I was kind of obsessed with researching the different camps and stuff like that. And as the years went on, I ended up looking at it a little bit, and it's Greg Jackson always kind of interested me with his kind of philosophies about like the art of war and stuff like that, and it just seemed that anyone that went to his camp just reached a new level, and which we mentioned Winkeljohn as well, obviously, but like that Albuquerque, New Mexico camp just seems.
I mean, it's when those guys are training all the time with the best fighters in the world, they're only ever going to produce world-class talent, and obviously, like you said, Greg Jackson and Winkeljohn, just the best, some of the best coaches in the world.
I mean, aside from that, who's left? Sort of TriStar, as I would say, are up there. But again, we'll come on to the Rory McDonald thing. We're probably best discussing that in the next video that we do. But sorry, we're kind of digressing a little bit here. We should risk because credit to you, Tom. You're very well researched. A lot about it, but we'll probably need to work our way through the card.
So I'll quickly.
Let's do the preliminary card.
The prelims on Fox Sports 1. Opening fight was Courtney Casey versus Randa Marcos. I said in the previews, if Courtney Casey can bring that aggression like she'd done in her previous fight, those brutal elbows, and if you haven't seen that fight against Christina Sandstrew, go watch that fight because those are some nasty elbows, some of the best in the women's division, that's for sure. But in this fight she did exactly what she did last time. She pushed the pressure, she went after Marcos, and then she beat her up, and then she ultimately submitted her. Moving up the card, I spoke about Artem Lobov versus Chris Avila. Not the fight I was hoping to see. Lobov came in with too much experience, just basically outpointed Chris Avila with superior striking. Probably my least favourite fight on the card. Moving up, we had Raquel Pennington versus Elizabeth Phillips. I'm not too sure about this fight. I was hoping that Raquel Pennington would come in and go to work and really beat Elizabeth Phillips up, but she didn't. It was a dog fight, and maybe I'm not giving enough credit for Elizabeth Phillips, but that was a real back and forth. Obviously Pennington won. Yeah.
To me, that's just the story of the bantamweight women's division. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just like you had this destroyer in Ronda Rousey, and ever since then it's been hot potato, and it just feels like, are we going to have that decisive champion, which is fun? It's whether you loved Ronda or hated her, she was a massive figure for the sport. Absolutely. And with the bantamweight division, it's again, now that MMA and women's MMA is evolving at such a rapid rate, it's come down to those little margins, and there's so little difference between competitors now, and I just wonder, will we get dominance in that division again, do you think?
It's a tough one. Amanda Nunes, she looked like an absolute beast against Miesha Tate. So it depends how long that she's going to run for.
But then again, Holly Holm looked sensational against Ronda.
She did, but it's just a shame she hasn't been able to. I think the loss against Miesha Tate.
That knocked the confidence,
and that's why she lost her last fight again as well. I think.
And it was apparently she had the option to wait out for.
It was a bold move.
You have to respect her,
I think it was the right move. Ronda is still out. She's not. She's
I
not,
mean, how long would she have had to wait?
yeah. Ultimately, Dana White and Joe Silver and the Fertitas. I think Fertitas were still around whilst this. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. It was very recent. Very recent that the Fertitas have gone.
Yeah.
That is a party in the office, I believe.
Oh.
My insiders tell me, and by that I mean podcasts that anyone can listen to.
Well, I suppose if you've just made billions of dollars,
I'd want a party for
you're
that.
gonna have a massive party.
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't be in the office. But
No.
sorry, carry on.
But yeah, I mean, that weight division is all over the place at the moment. I think Nunes is going to do well. I think it's looking like she's going to face Juliana Pena next. So I mean, that should be good. That should be a good fight. But like I said, going back to the original fight, Raquel Pennington versus Elizabeth Phillips, it didn't. I don't feel like Pennington made enough of a statement for me to get behind it. They looked like two gorillas going at each other. It lacked technique. It sort of. It seems like they both lacked a really vivid game plan. I think that's the reason that fight ended up like it did. Let's move on to the main event of the prelims. Cody Garbrandt versus Takeya Mitsugaki. Man, that was a hell of a performance. I mean, the thing is, Mitsugaki's got chin. He's got a chin. Mm-hmm. He suffered a couple of fairly brutal knockout losses. One of those against the current bantamweight champion Dominick Cruz. But you know, all Cody Garbrandt needed to do was come in and do what he did, and I think that was enough for him to now go and challenge Dominick Cruz, because the story's there, the narrative is there now for those two to fight. Uriah Faber couldn't get it done, and now you know the young pup is now coming up to fight Cruz.
Thing is though, I love Dominick Cruz's verbiage, like when he's just his recent statement, I kill hype for a living. He just doesn't care, man.
Yeah,
he's a savage.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I think he's very love or hate Dominick Cruz. Personally, I think he's a spectacular fighter.
Oh yeah, and he's articulate as hell, man.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever heard him on when he's on like UFC on Fox and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So articulate.
But personally, I think he's a bit of a douchebag, though. Like, I mean, that's not
he's
technical.
a professional
that's
fighter.
Not technical analysis.
Why do you think he's a douchebag?
I don't know. I think some guys can do arrogance really well, and you get behind them.
Like in an entertaining way, whereas his is just like,
I'm the best.
I'm God.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, exactly. I'd like to see Demetrius Johnson come up and fight him. I think he'd probably get through Garbrandt. I think he will get through Garbrandt. I think he's too young. I think it's too soon for him to fight Cruz. That fight's going to happen though, because like I said, the narrative's there. Here comes Jack the Jobber.
Yeah, we've got a visitor at the moment. For anyone on the MMA channel who
Come say hi.
yeah, you might as well come and say hi.
Hey guys.
You have to come in front and say hi.
Is it a live stream?
It's
No.
not, no.
Oh,
No.
hello. Very rudimentary knowledge of MMA.
What did you think of Cody Garbrandt versus Takeya Mitsugaki?
I actually missed that one,
Yeah.
but I think my boy, the first one he said, won.
He did.
Yeah, by decision, wasn't it?
Yeah. No. Sorry. I was too soon.
Should have quit while you were ahead.
What
man.
was it?
Should've quit
He
while
knocked
you
him
were
out. Garbrandt knocked him out
First
in the
round.
first round.
Right, yeah. Thought so. We're going to get chicken.
ahead. Okay.
Seriously.
And-
Jack the Jobber is going to
and-
go get chicken.
And while Jack the Jobber goes on to get chicken, we will go on to tackle the main card. And what a transition that is. So now that Jack the Jobber has departed, we shall move on to the main card. Now the first fight, I believe we both had Tim Means in this. They had Homasi coming in at late notice, and unfortunately for him, he got big brothered in this fight, didn't he? A little bit beat up. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, we clearly both chose Tim Means purely because he was the more experienced fighter, and Saber Homasi I think he was making his UFC debut. I think he was on Ultimate Fighter. It didn't work out for him there, but he was finally getting the opportunity to come up and fight for the UFC.
I've just checked. That is his UFC debut.
Yeah,
Yes.
great.
Sorry. We can do this with technology now.
We can, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was just it was more of a showcase for Tim Means. He was really just demonstrating how good he actually is. He's been around for a long time. I don't think there's too much really to talk about.
No.
Other than the fact that it was a brilliant performance, and he beat the much less experienced guy up, and that's what it was.
Do you think in that situation they should switch out one of the, if it's somebody coming in at late notice, should they switch it with one of the preliminary card fights, or is it important to have a kind of main event on the prelims to draw attention to?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's if I had a say in it, I probably would have had Larkin and Magny in the main event, because those two fighters. Sorry, not the main event. In the main card.
I'm glad you're not running the UFC.
So we'll put Conor Nate four fights down.
Like, it's safe to say Tom won't be replacing the Fertitas anytime soon.
Sorry, it's been a long day.
It has been a long
day. I put those two in the main card. I probably would have had it above Cerrone and Story, purely because those two fighters, and especially Neil Magny, was coming in with some serious credentials and some serious hype. But what I was saying was, I mean, I think Tim Means, regardless, deserves to be there. I think he does. I think he deserves to be in the main card, and he showed that he deserves to be in the main card as well. And fair play to Hamasi just to take that fight.
Give it a bash.
Yeah.
And speaking of someone who gave it a bash, Sean Lim. What happened? What happened, bro? I picked you, man. I don't know. I just had a gut feeling. I was like, man.
Honestly, the only reason I picked Mike Perry is because he scared me. He scared me more than Lim scared me. I mean, Lim. There's not really much to say about that fight other than Mike Perry's a freaking weirdo. He's got outrageous knockout power. I thought it was just a simple case of maybe he had outrageous knockout power outside of the UFC, and he was coming in with some serious he's knocking out everyone. But I think Lim was a strong choice for that, because he's the way more experienced guy. But he just,
what happened?
I don't think he realised what he was getting involved with Mike Platinum Perry. That guy's an absolute beast. It'd be interesting to see where he goes from here. He's clearly now everyone who saw that fight.
That it looked like a mismatch. Fair enough. Like a flash knockout, which we'll come to, is a flash knockout. But that, to me,
he beat him up.
Yeah.
But to be fair,
that was like,
to Lim, he survived. I think he survived like 2 or 3 knockdowns, and he got back up again. Fair play. He should have taken him down. I did say this in the preview as well. Lim should go for the takedown, get him down there, submit him, and get on with it. But he didn't. Maybe he didn't get the opportunity to. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're sitting here in a hotel critiquing something. It's like, anyone who makes it to the UFC is an elite athlete.
Absolutely,
and it's we shouldn't be.
But the amazing thing about Perry was that he only had 6 professional fights. Yeah, they were all finished by I think it was like first or second round knockout. All of those 6 fights. But at the end of the day, Lim was a very, very experienced fighter. Surely I know, again, Mike Perry was a last minute. Well, not last minute, but he came in at late notice. But surely his team should have said to him, watch these videos of him. He's knocking people.
No, it didn't happen. No.
He's knocking people out. Take him down. Take the pay and let's get out of here and move on. But he didn't. He was like, yeah. But it's.
Here's one, right. If you were going up against, you knew, let's say you had the foresight to know you were going to get whooped in the UFC. would you rather know about it for months in advance, like you see the videos and be like, oh god, or would you just want to be surprised on the night and for the pain just to be right there and then? I'd probably go for I'd probably rather live a kind of, you know, in a kind of ball of ignorance is bliss, and then just take one ass whipping and go back to normal life.
But
Sorry, that was very abstract for culture MMA.
Yeah. But I mean,
I'm tired.
But that's the thing. He's a professional athlete.
I know.
You know, I mean, it's different if say I was going in to. I mean, you know, you're coming. I mean, yeah, I've had experience in judo, and I've fought for Britain, won the medals.
But I love how you just slid it in there. People started off and
people need to know.
You just started off, boom.
Yeah. You know, people need to know. They need to know why I'm on this channel. They need to know why I'm the knowledge.
Yeah, why you're just the man.
But
you know.
Yeah, but I mean, you've done multiple aspects of you know, you've got wrestling, you've got your black belt in judo.
You don't have to burn me up there.
But you know, I would say you're more of an experienced fighter, and you're a professional wrestler as well, and you know, you're taking hard hits there as well.
Oh man, tell me about it. Watch WCPW. See the whooping I got last night. Oh my god.
But I've just switched to the old Premier Inn Wi-Fi, so I can't see my. There we go. Yeah, I mean that Lim should have come in with a stronger game plan. He should have just taken him down. Mike Perry is I like to call him Diego Sanchez 2.0, because that guy. Did you see what he was biting his fingernails? His fingernails are too long, and he did his walk out to the octagon. He's doing his thing, and I can't remember who was refereeing it, but he checks his nails, and Mike Perry had some long ass nails, and he was biting them off just before he got to. That's nuts. That's just crazy.
You know, like I remember one time, right? This was way back in the day. Yeah. Way back in the day, a young Joe Hendry, right? Off topic, but we were going to see Eagles of Death Metal at the Liquid Rooms in Edinburgh, and we saw him in the street, and we were like, oh. Me and my 15-year-old cousin, however old we were, and we were like, oh man, we have to meet him. And I started getting a bit nervous, and this is where it ties in. I was like biting my nails because I was a bit nervous, and then like I accidentally bit off too much, and it just started like profusely bleeding. So I started like talking to him. I was like, oh hey man, how's it going? And I'm like, ah! Oh wait, I'm screaming in a Premier Inn. Midnight. Anyway, yeah. Sorry. Moving on. Cut that.
Great story.
Yeah.
Great story. But going back to it.
No, we can't go back to that fight. I need to cut you off. Okay. I need to cut you off.
Move on.
You need to become TV Tom.
Sorry.
Right. Donald Cerrone, Rick Story. Why did you pick Rick Story? How could you not pick Donald Cerrone?
Rick Story.
Cerrone.
Rick Story. If you're watching it, no, this too me. But I really thought that he was. I thought he was really gonna. Rick Story has been around for a long, long time. He's got an incredible record. I don't know if you can quickly give it a search, and I don't know record off by hand, but he was coming in with a lot of fights. He never quite got to the top of the mountain. But I think Rick Story is more than capable of being at that level. So I really thought that he was gonna do a Lorenz Larkin and come in and really show everyone who and what he was actually made of. But he didn't. And that actually comes at the brilliant performance of Cerrone.
Sure, I completely understand that viewpoint, but just when you were saying check out the breakdown of the record, and it's like when I look at Rick Story's record, it's he's kind of like win loss, then he had 3 in a row, to be fair. But Donald Cerrone, man,
yeah,
like oh my goodness, apart from Dos Anjos, I mean the guy's on fire. It's like what is it, 11 of 12,
yeah.
111,
which is although the
Henderson
fight. Debatable. I know that a lot of people had Henderson winning that fight.
How Hey, whoa. The wins and losses. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. It's got a green box next to Benson Henderson, and that means that he beat him, and that's
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Well,
I'm
I would
official
I would say
jurisdiction.
that Henderson won that fight, but what do I know? Everything, all the knowledge.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a phenomenal performance by Cerrone. Rick Story couldn't do anything against that. He just came in. He did what he wanted to do. And that was that. I mean, like I said, I picked Story because there was a little bit of hope in me that he would come and he'd really be like, right, I want this. I really want this. Maybe he could have weathered that storm. I mean, that was a big ass combination at the end. Was it right head kick that finished him? It pretty much finished the deal in there. I think it was. I need to go back and watch it again. But that combination was just sick, absolutely sick.
So the thing is, what's next for Cerrone though? You know.
I mean, he said that he wanted to go down to lightweight and challenge Eddie Alvarez. I think he's doing all right at welterweight. I think he's doing all right. I think he had his opportunity against Javier Dos Anjos, and for whatever reason he didn't perform that night. He came out looking pretty stiff. Maybe it was the pressure got to him. You don't often see pressure get to Cerrone.
Yeah,
but I think it did. I think he had more than a chance to.
I know what you mean. That was a weird fight. That one.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird. He didn't seem like himself.
I mean, McGregor said it at one of these press conferences. He said, I'd snap you. You're stiff as a board, and he was right. In regards to the way he came out against Dos Anjos, really, really stiff. I think it's right down to nerves, but he looked so fluid. He looked so quick against Rick Story, and I really one of the reasons why I picked Rick Story. I thought that the Cerrone that came to fight Dos Anjos was going to show up, but he proved me wrong, and he came out and performed the way he did and won it.
Okay, moving on. Anthony Johnson, Glover Teixeira. Am I saying that right?
Teixeira, yeah.
Teixeira,
Glover Teixeira.
The people in the comments will be like...
The Brazilian fans are going to be like, that's not... No, but...
I know, but it's TXE era.
Yeah.
Is what it says. But we'll go with...
Glover Teixeira.
Yeah, Glover Teixeira. Anthony Johnson versus Glover Teixeira. I was listening to, I think it was Front Row Brian was saying today that...
Plugged you.
Yeah. Keep us in the good books, Front Row. But Front Row Brian was saying that Anthony Johnson's like the scariest person in the UFC right now. I mean, how can you argue with that? That was terrifying.
That's nuts.
Because Teixeira is, this was basically the two destroyers, the two tanks just coming to see it. Just, it wasn't going to go the whole distance, was it? But I didn't think it was going to be that quick, and I'm just like, thanks, It
was nuts. I think was it an uppercut that caught him? I think it was.
Anthony Johnson is like the next level of human being. Like it still bothers me that he fought at welterweight.
It's like if you've ever watched Dragon Ball Z, if you've ever watched Dragon Ball Z, you've got normal Goku, which was Rumble Johnson. This is out of the box. This is so out of the box. But you've got normal Goku, everyday normal Sam, which was what he was like at welterweight, and then you've got him super saiyaning to where he is now, and he's unbeatable. It's nuts. It's nuts what he's been able to achieve at this weight class. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't mean to keep going back to the preview, but I called this card pretty well. If you go back and watch my preview now,
well, you called the card pretty well. Again, thanks for all the details and all that, but it's results that matters. If we had our own Wikipedia pages that catalogued who got what right, I got 4 out of 5 green boxes, man.
You did,
and you got 3.
It was mostly luck.
You were 60%.
I think it was mostly.
I was 80% correct. You know, in university, that's the difference between
Yeah.
that's the difference between an A and a B. In fact, I would probably get distinction for that, and you'd just be like, "Oh, mate, no, an 80% is like first class honors distinction, and you have scraped a B.
Right. Okay.
You've scraped it. You've met with your lecturer. You've got tears in your eyes. You've told him about period pains. He's given you an extension, and you've scraped 60%.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you could say that. That was thorough. Thank you for that. What were we talking about?
Anthony Johnson versus Glover Teixeira.
Okay. You brought back so many uni memories. I just.
You know what annoyed me about uni, right? Like, I would honestly, I broke my leg so bad, and yet I got like a week extension. 1 week, man, and like my legs, like it was literally turned round the wrong way.
Where did you?
Right?
Where did you go?
I went to Hendry University.
Okay.
What, you gonna
No.
puff out your chest about which uni you went to?
No. Not
Right, but
Not at all.
anyway, I got a week extension and like half my body's hanging off.
Yeah.
And this guy in my year broke up with his girlfriend, and he gets like months.
It's like emotional and physical, isn't it? It's like, I mean, some might say that emotional is more painful than a physical pain. I'm a sensitive guy. What can I say?
If we have any subscribers left, we'll probably move on to the main.
We're talking about fighting. I just didn't.
And then emotional pain. Speaking of emotional pain.
Oh dear! Right, the time.
Just delete the channel. Just delete it. Right. Okay. Main event of the evening. Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
My goodness.
What a fight! What a fight!
I tell you what, like, I am as biased as they come towards Conor
Lay
McGregor.
it down.
I'm literally like watching it, and I'm like, oh, he's doing it. He's got it. Knocks him down, and we're just like, oh, he's got to finish it now. Oh, he's been patient. He's not going there. He's been patient. Doesn't need it. Up you get, Nate. Dominating it. And then in round 2, I just saw him go, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it matters so much to me, but it does. Like, see, when Conor got beat, it was literally just like REM playing in the background. It was just, it was high drama. It was high drama, and honestly, I thought Conor was done again. There was a point in that fight where I was like, nah, he's not going to have the gas.
Well, you say that, but I mean, if you watch that fight at the end, I think it was at the end of round 3. John McCarthy took a long, hard look at him after that round. He was getting lit up. He was getting beaten up. He was getting beaten up badly. The buzzer went, and John McCarthy followed him all the way back to his corner. And he wasn't saying anything. He wasn't talking to McGregor. All he was doing was looking at him, seeing where he was at. And I mean, I think McCarthy was a lot closer to finishing that fight
than we maybe thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I mean, the one thing that surprised me, and I think this has been good for Conor McGregor, because he is finally weathered a storm, you know, and he showed that. I mean, that you have to be a special human being to get through that, to the point where you've reached absolute exhaustion. Yeah. You're in there with a triathlete, someone who has lethal jiu-jitsu skills, and who's much bigger, you know. I mean, you could see the size difference. It was obvious, you know, and it was just, I mean, at the end as well, when Conor McGregor said, you know, I'm done at 170 pounds, I'm done, and I thought at one point it might have been a mistake. When have you ever heard him backtrack on anything he said and be honest like that? And man, I'm glad he's done at 170, you know. But I mean, what I noticed as well is he was winning quite a lot of the clinch at certain points. You know, okay, Nate's obviously had him up against the fence. I'm not saying I'm not saying Conor was winning. Yes, that's what I'm saying. There were times where I thought, because he's so fatigued, I didn't expect him to take any of the clinch game. Yeah. But he was hanging in there, and the takedown defense, you know, fair enough, there's little slip ups, but his takedown defense,
I think there were 2 big takedown defenses.
He was great. Yeah. He was great, you know, and it was, but again, credit to Nate. I mean, there were some scary moments there for Conor. I mean,
Yeah.
he had him up against the head pressed up against him, just unloading.
I mean, all you need to do is go and watch Diaz versus Gray Maynard, and I mean, obviously Nate hadn't been dropped like he did in the first couple of rounds against McGregor, but you go and watch that fight against Gray Maynard, and that's the kind of scary close encounter that you can have with Diaz. It only takes a few, and you're knocked out on your feet, and you don't know where you are. And I think McGregor was so close to being a second example of that.
I mean, honestly, I think that if you'd have taken Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz at 170 pounds with that much lead up time and done that fight 100 times, Nate wins 80 out of the 100.
Yeah,
you know.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
And that's why I was like, you know. That being said, I think Conor would fare much better at 155 against Nate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really do.
No, I absolutely agree with you. It's
because the thing is, like, you'll know from being an athlete yourself, right? When in life have you ever put on a stone and gone, I feel great, I can go all day?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
You know, and you know that's why it was a bold move to me. I mean, even 6 months is not enough time to get those championship rounds in. No matter what anyone says, it just, again, I don't have the experience of doing UFC training camps, but I do amateur wrestling, and no matter how hard I bust my ass in training, I always have that. You know that you're never going to go as hard as you will in a competition.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys who I train with. I mean, there's one guy who's massive, like 110 kilos, like doing backflips and everything. This guy's a super athlete. He's been to the Commonwealth and all that. He's a veteran. And in practice, I'm catching him every so often. But then we face each other in competition. It was like Suplex City for Joe Hendry. You know what I mean? So it's like, as good as the training camp could have been, you can't prepare for a 5-round fight with Nate Diaz. You just can't. And the thing is, you can't prepare for that in the training room because you destroy your body. You can really only go through that once, you know. Think of the punishment that both men took.
I mean, it's interesting as well because I think the big mentality when the Diaz brothers come to fight is they have to hate the person they're fighting. Surely they don't hate the guys that they're training with as well. So that's kind of backing up what you're saying is that you can only really go through.
Can I make a point?
Yeah.
Do you think Nate got cocky? Like, do you think with his training Nate took it too easy? Because the thing is, that fight was margins.
Yeah.
That was margins.
Yeah.
Between Nate picking up the win there, right? I know it was a majority decision, but you would have only had to have turned Twitch a couple of different things in that scenario.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think was the big factor in the whole fight was that like we were saying, McGregor badly hurt at the end of round 3. Nate let him recover in the 4th. There was a good minute, maybe 2 minutes of Nate not just, surely his corner be like, right, he's hurt and he's hurt badly, get him, go for him. But he didn't. He sort of didn't push. He just sort of stayed back, sort of bobbed his head and
that's a Diaz brothers thing, isn't it? Like, do you remember when Nick Diaz fought Anderson Silva? That was a weird one as well. I thought that was a strange fight.
Oh, absolutely. That neither sort of really sort of did anything in that exchange. I think what Diaz was looking for, talking about that fight, I think what Diaz was looking for was counters. I thought Silva was also looking for counters. But yeah, I mean, in this McGregor against Nate Diaz, like, if Nate pushed the pressure on that 4th, I think it would have been. I think we'd be talking a very different story at the moment.
But there's going to be the 3rd.
Yeah.
But this time at 155, my money's on McGregor.
Yeah.
It is.
It'll be interesting to see if he can finish it. If this fight is going to happen, surely it will as well. The big question is, will Conor be able to knock Diaz out? I don't know what I'm talking about.
The thing is, I think his cardio will be much better at 155.
Yeah.
It's, if you think about it, Conor's trying to put on weight, whereas Nate just doesn't really have to lose weight to the same extreme, Yeah.
I was really surprised about it. It sort of seemed like he was at 100%, and then all of a sudden he was at like 10% in terms of his cardio and his stamina. McGregor went from, I think it's probably because he got caught a few times, and he just all of a sudden it just looked like he hit his wall. He was able to recover in the fourth, but yeah, absolutely. At the end of the second, that's when he hit his wall.
Yeah, but he did get the second wind.
Yeah,
he did get a second win.
Yeah.
He managed to recover, and it was an amazing performance from both guys.
Yeah,
and it was I think it was the fight that they needed.
Yeah.
You know, it was the fight that the UFC needed, and it was just now this is perfect because obviously they got the third one, and now it's back to business for Conor McGregor, who is the cash cow
Absolutely.
of the UFC.
Well, I mean, I chose Diaz to win, but I wanted McGregor to win purely because the eyes that he's bringing to MMA. I mean, what I'd love to do is here in England to be able to go into a pub and talk about MMA the way
Exactly. I mean, I'll give you an example, right? Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No.
I was going to say, I was in Iceland last year when this is a crazy coincidence, because I was in Iceland last year and I was standing on the street when the fight was playing between him and Chad Mendez. It was right now. Conor McGregor posted a tweet when there was the whole controversy with UFC 200 with him standing in the street showing that he was in Iceland, and I was like stood in that exact spot actually watching him fight Chad Mendez. And what was weird was that everyone in Reykjavik was watching this fight. Every single person. I was walking past all the bars, it was all on. Even like, you know, I've got kind of extended family in Iceland, and they're all talking about Conor McGregor and obviously Gunnar Nelson as well. Sorry, I'm kind of digressing, but it's really weird because they're like, obviously they were watching for Gunnar Nelson because he's Icelandic, and it's like that there. Anytime one of their own gets in a top sporting situation, everyone kind of gets involved massively.
Yeah.
But it was like the same fanfare for Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
And you realise the reach that this guy has.
Absolutely.
You know, and when I've got like, you know, like I've got kind of aunties and uncles over there, and it's like when I've got my kind of 55-year-old great auntie or whatever it is, I can't remember the exact connection. You know. Better cut that, or my stepdad's gonna whip my ass. But basically, you have them talking about MMA, and we know it as a niche, and Conor McGregor is bringing it to the forefront, and that's why it was amazing for business. And you know what? Some people were disappointed with the UFC 200. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But this was the super card, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This was just what it's all about.
It's just it sort of seems like when McGregor is headlining an event, every other fighter comes to play as well.
Gets a boost.
Yeah. And I think that's what this card was really.
And he's not wrong when he's saying he played a big part in the UFC sale price. You know,
I mean,
Ronda did too, and obviously everyone that came before in GSP. But if you're talking about what made that brand hot, Conor's right up there.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I think he's the perfect. I think he's the perfect man to play that role as well. He's such a smart guy. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's saying. I mean, I'm basically in short. I'm glad he won. I thought Diaz was going to win.
I did too. I mean, I picked Conor, but I was like,
you picked it. You picked from the heart.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. And
I picked from the head.
Yeah. And with that final message of follow your heart from myself, Joe Hendry, and the brains of the operation, Tom Ransom, we've been What Culture MMA, and make sure as well as following your heart that you follow us on Twitter, like that.
That's great.
And subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. So thank you very much for joining us, and we shall see you next time.